what someone thought about me used to keep me like paralyzed basically. And it's been that whole process of me finally getting to the place where I don't care. We've got to stop people pleasing.
Hey friends, this is the Next Level Glam podcast, and I'm Glam Gal. Thank you for joining me as I discuss all things transformation, inside and out, with my sisters in Christ. Pull up a chair, it's about to go next level.
Well, hey there. Thank you for joining me here at the Next Level Glam podcast this morning. How are you doing? I'm not going to lie, this week I'm a bit scrambly on getting this recorded, edited, and uploaded for you. One would think that now that I'm fully at home that I would have all the time in the world to get things done. But as I'm learning and I'm garnering the scope of what's my responsibility here in the household, I'm always trying to make that a priority. Like this podcast is a priority to me, as I've said in the past. It's something that I take seriously. I want to be consistent here for you. It's the one thing in my life outside of showing up for my family that I'm consistent about. There's a lot on my plate, and I just hope that you give me grace as I try to keep up with releasing an episode every week here Thursdays. So anyway, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes and just hanging out with me as I'm gonna keep it real. This episode is entitled I Don't Give a Damn. And that literally dawned on me. I think it was last week. I was, going through reels and finding content for my peeps. And this guy I follow released a reel and it was hilarious. He's definitely a different individual, and it just had to do with the fact where somebody's uncomfortable with them being weird and being who they are. And it's like, truly, like, I don't give a damn. It spoke to me because the last couple of weeks, the Lord has really put the word in my heart saying, like, you can't help anyone by hiding who you are. And I really felt like I have taken huge steps forward, letting people in and reaching out and trying to build a community of like-minded believers, women of the faith, over the handful of years, letting myself and my presence come out more through my social media. But I think it was about a month or so before I quit my job. It was really pushing hard on me about some of the things that I haven't discussed yet. I wish I could keep up with some of the content ideas I have all the time, but it is very time consuming work. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is that this is basically a one man show, uh, doing it all behind the scenes by the Lord's strength and grace. I just realized that there were things I hadn't really talked about. And when I first started putting my presence online, it was really hard for me, even in terms of the business aspect. I was talking about this on my Facebook page, which is going to be a merge of like my Glam Gal presence and the Next Level Glam podcast. It's the Facebook business page has been around since, I don't know, like 2018 or so. And in 2020, obviously, it amped up with me making a slight detour into being a consultant for a beauty company. And I've had a few detours since that time as well. And I just decided to reach out on that platform to bring in more listeners, because that was something I was halting. There's just so many people on Facebook that I didn't want to hear the podcast, or I cared about judgment for the podcast. And I've had to learn that I can't care about, number one, pleasing people. I have to care about pleasing the Lord and caring what he thinks. That's been a huge thing. And the other thing is a lot of the time that people criticize you, they're not the ones who are out there putting out content, putting themselves out there, and I can't care about what they have to say. And the other part is, for the people, the non-believers, especially if they think it's cringy or weird or whatever, about talking about living the faith, walking in the faith, and how incredibly vital it is to incorporate that in your life to have, I feel, any sense of success or a fulfillment, a satisfaction. And it's something that I've been letting the Lord minister to my heart. What someone thought about me used to keep me like paralyzed, basically, having those thoughts of, well, that's not for me and this and that. And, I remember years ago when I started the weight loss journey and stuff, social media was really, really amping up. This is about, I don't know, 2016, 2017. And I thought to myself, as I saw people working for a certain like workout company, they would share their before and afters. They would start sharing like what they do, their lifestyle, and getting paid to be that kind of like coach per se. And I remember looking at my husband and being like, man, I feel like I could do that. I feel like that's something I'd want to do, but that's scary. Like, what are they going to think? They're going to judge me and they're going to laugh at me. And he was like, I believe in you, right? And I didn't do it, but it was a couple of years after that that I started this business page on Facebook where I started doing like makeup videos, trying to think like maybe those YouTube videos. I used to be obsessed with like Jeffree Star and his makeup videos and that whole thing. Um, and it didn't really lead anywhere. 2020 happened, and so much life has changed, as I've explained here on so many episodes of the podcast. And I'm at that point again where I want to talk more on my platform about what my life really looks like so that I can relate to people who are in the same shoes. Like, for instance, I love the account Nara Aziza. She's somebody who does like little content reels and stuff. She's a model and she's married to a model, and they have their beautiful kids and their beautiful home and their beautiful dishes and her soft, soothing voice. She makes everything she does looks so easy and clean and just that ideal, right? When we get into our comparison heads about like what life should look like. But I don't, it doesn't bother me. Actually, I love her content, and this is no hit on her at all, but I'm basically the opposite of that, if that makes sense. Like, and I had to realize that about myself. There wasn't enough cropping of a video or anything to hide the fact that I am just an everyday woman learning to be a steward of what she has been given, trying to be grateful with little and with much, and trusting in the Lord to bring me exactly where I need to be. But I need to be obedient to the fact that it's not going to change unless I take the steps forward and put myself out there. And ultimately, when we take Barb's, especially for his namesake, we should be rejoicing in that tribulation and that persecution. And a lot of the times we end up getting down about ourselves, and it stops being about like us in Christ and it starts being about us in our own personal stuff. And, people knowing you from like what they say, your ratchet days and how that affects you. But you know what? I don't want to be found in my own righteousness. I want to be found in Christ. I'm not that person anymore. We're allowed to change. We're allowed to grow. We're supposed to. We're supposed to walk and move in our new identity by that viewpoint and not what we see in the mirror, not when we see what we first open our eyes, but on real truth. So it's been really, really hard. And it's crazy all the things that have led up to this point for me to be able to say that I don't give a damn. Like, I had to not care what people thought to put myself and my work on the internet to be, critiqued. And I had to be brave when I decided to homeschool my daughter, and dealing with people's opinions and standpoints on that, and not care about what anybody had to say about my life and my family. I had to choose to not care about going after plastic surgery and not being judged about those desires and that whole thing. I had to be brave about leaving the matrix behind and embracing a lifestyle that, I mean, people, it's coming back now where more people are realizing about conservative values and traditional values and how important moms are in the home ultimately for our kids to flourish the way that they were meant to flourish. And I'm not saying that my way is the best way or the only way. I'm just saying, have you taken it to the Lord yet? That's what I'm saying with that. I've had to not care about the ways that I make money if people think it's stupid or not with my, stupid little advertisements or whatever. But the purpose is to help people more times than not with the products that I'm selling or the recipes that I'm sharing or the little behind the scenes moments that people need to see, that like Bilbo says, that there's nothing wrong with enjoying a simple life, right? That's why Christ came, so that we could have the enjoyment and fulfillment. And it's been that whole process of me finally getting to the place where I don't care. A lot of this life, like I have some fellow believer friends, and we don't see each other every day, but there seems to be a theme going across the board of I feel incredibly alone. And we put this pressure on having a person in our lives. And I just want to say that a lot of people don't want to hear it, especially if they've been in the single scene a long time. But when you finally do have your person, and that's wonderful, and we all want that for you, there's still going to be some season where you realize that they don't make you happy. And that's something that only comes from Christ. And using that time to lean on Christ will actually, when that relationship comes to you, you will have the right place for it. And you're not looking at to fill some hole in your life, but to add to the whole version that you are in Christ. And I say that because even though I'm married and I've been in a relationship for a long time, there have been many seasons where I have felt alone. Like I've shared, my husband has always been very athletic for the most part. Yeah, I mean, he's not, perfect, but like he's had a different journey than me, and me having to go through the weight loss journey alone and make the changes around the household and activities around here to keep pushing and moving forward and challenging the way of life that we were living. That took bravery. I felt alone. I mean, my whole pregnancy, even though we were together, I still felt alone. People misconstrue the fact that I have like tons of friends. I don't. I have my husband, I have my daughter. I don't have parents in my life. I don't have grandparents in my life. I don't have lots of cousins available to me or lots of friends next door. I have a sister that lives down the road with my niece who is incredibly important to me. I have, a couple of friends that I see every once in a while, and that has been more than enough for me. So it's like very easy for me at times to feel alone as I'm out here feeling compelled to speak truth. And there's so many around me who, number one, don't want to speak out, and number one, speak out on truth. It can be very lonely when you feel so driven to want to grab people by the shoulders and shake them and be like, just just trust in the Lord. You know what I mean? Just start seeking him. Start walking in the confidence that he's given you. Start being in the word, and they just think that you're cuckoo. It can be very lonely. Being a homeschooling mom can be very lonely. There's not a lot of homeschooling moms, and each homeschooling mom is so different. People, don't understand that. I have one car in this household. I stay home a lot. That's not easy. That can be incredibly lonely. And there have been times in our relationship too where there's just things going on with me that we were not able to talk about or broach or discuss, or struggles that I've had in the flesh that separated us more in our relationship, where I felt alone, where I felt like nobody understands me. When I get attacked for anxiety and depression, something also that my husband does not struggle with to the extent that I have due to our past, it's like I feel alone. Like I'm the only one that has toxic relationship issues. So I get into my shit about it because, you'll hear people say things like, you don't understand because you have your person. I mean, yes, it's true. There's somebody at night where, I mean, there are still nights, by the way, that you want them to, and you're not on the same path, and they're not there to give you the support that you need because they're not perfect. And we have to get that validation from Christ. And I've had to learn that. My husband is not the source of my happiness. He adds to my happiness. And this is why we talk about all these different avenues in the podcast, because we all can relate to some manner, but Jesus truly relates. I mean, when we think about loneliness and about how Christ, the multitude stopped following him after he said some deep spiritual things that they were just not ready to receive. Even his disciples betrayed him. They fled, when things got tough. He did everything himself. He bore it unto himself. And so for us to say that nobody knows how we feel, that's not true. Christ does. Jesus does, and he cares for you, and he's there for you. And sometimes all we can do is just bask in his presence, knowing that we're going to trust what the word says and not what our feelings say. And that is a whole discipline, a whole practice and training about choosing our joy, about choosing truth over what our members feel. And there are going to be days where we can't even do it because the law of sin in our members is stronger than us and our will to do God's will at times. God knows that we're in weakness, and sometimes that feeling of loneliness can be hard to bear. But just because somebody is married or in a relationship doesn't mean that they don't experience loneliness. As a matter of fact, I feel like some people in relationships feel more alone than they did when they were living alone. It almost shows them that like there was this end of the tunnel, and when they got there, they realized it was just all like whatever. I'm really here to share a message on a few things today, which is we've got to stop caring about people pleasing. And this is where it comes from, this whole transformation of the identity today, is because I've talked about in the past how I was raised a certain way. I was raised to be twice the son of hell that she was, or twice the daughter of hell that she was, and all of the little pathways in between then and here, and about being my own person, because I was raised to be a people pleaser. I was raised to care what they think and to get their approval, and if they don't like it, well, I have no worth or value. And um I've been shaking off the people pleasing because I can't do the work that God has for me if I'm giving a care to whomever about my content or about my life or about my house or about, you know, how I choose to raise my daughter or what like whatever looks like that people have a problem with. I knew when I started this podcast, there was a lady that I was listening to. She was very inspirational and she just said, a lot of people are scared to speak out because, what if someone hears this that you don't want to hear? And it's like, you know what? You have to throw the chips up in the air and see where they fall. You have to speak truth. And I understand that we think that we have our versions of truth and there are two sides to every story. When it comes to my real life, that's true. Everybody has two sides to every story, but this is my story and my testimony as far as like the kind of people that I'm reaching out to stand on their own 2 feet, standing in God's grace, the identity that He's given you in Him to reach out to people. These are the days, these are the times that we need to be speaking what they call prophesying truth. There are some people where I used to be that really need the push to be a presence here. And it may just be one person. And I had to realize that it may just be one person, but it's not about the size of the calling. We're here to edify and exhort one another and encourage one another as sisters in Christ. And it's like we really need to start changing our perspective, stop seeing each other as the enemy, start seeing ourselves breaking chains of who we think we are. I can't imagine if I were still dancing to the piper's piping where I would be today. And I don't even want to think about it because it's such a radical change now when I've been living in liberty and freedom and seeking truth. And we need to hear that. And the second thing is what you have to say is important. There are people who are depending on you that you don't even know to give them just a little glimmer of light, to lead people to the truth, to encourage them in their faith, to make somebody feel less alone. That's the thing about loneliness. It's like, yeah, you're sitting there being lonely. Let's do something about it, right? Number one, getting in the word is always going to be edifying for you. Okay, that's the first thing. But start reaching out to people and realizing that it's not about you being served to have the loneliness taken away. It's about you serving. It's about you ministering to people that takes the point of view off of yourself and number one, onto Christ, about who you are in Christ and serving the brethren. That is what I feel has been the biggest change for me in my loneliness. Because before, like I said, I started this podcast, I had gotten so frustrated with trying to find fellowship that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to knuckle down and do me and just put all of my intention into me and my family and what I'm doing. And I heard Lord shake me and say, first of all, it's not about you. Second of all, you need to step out in faith and start finding people. You need to start finding the brethren. You need to start finding the fellowship where you already are on social media. Like you're already here. And I needed to start to pivot. And it has been an incredible journey. And I just want to encourage you that it's hard out here. It's hard out here finding true fellowship, people who are praying for you, who want the best for you. And I want to grow that. And so if you need any prayer, please drop into my inbox at the Next Level Glam podcast on Instagram. I believe you'll be able to find me on Facebook with that title as well. I'm working on it. Like I promise I'm working on it. But shoot me a message, drop a comment. If you have questions about anything, if you need prayer for anything, that's why I'm here. But really today, I just wanted to remind you that you are who you are in Christ. Our life, our true life is hidden in Christ. We all want to know where our purpose is and where God's taking us. But that's part of the journey. We just have to step out by faith about these little nudges on our heart about how hard would it be to just reach out and put yourself out there and share a good word with them. It doesn't always have to be overt and in your face, but that's how I am as a person. I am blunt, especially when you get to know me. I actually probably am more blunt the more that you get to know me. So if you're like basically on my social edges and you think I'm offensive already or that I'm being too blatant as it is, it just gets worse from here and I'm probably not the person for you. But that's okay because each of us have different skill sets and we're here to reach different people. He uses all the things for our good, for us and for our fellow brethren. And I'm just speaking so many blessings and favor over you today as you move forward in your true, authentic self. Stop hiding who you are so that we can help each other. And that's what I really wanted to get across today here on the podcast. Short and sweet, just a little life update, letting you know that life is good. And there are moments in the days where I get scared that I, of course, made the wrong choices. Things don't look like how I thought they look all the time. And I don't always get the encouragement that I desired to have to keep going. But I just know in my soul that we keep going and we continue to armor up in the armor of God every single day and choose to believe that He's got great things for us. And when we have Him in mind as we go about our days doing what we do, and we have a heart full of gratitude, it's a great place to start to get on that same frequency as the Lord, so that you can hear Him when He says to you, I'm going to use you as a vessel for me. He is the treasure in this earthen vessel, and we need to let him shine. And you need to speak out, because there are people that are waiting to hear from you, that are dependent on your edification and your story to help them keep carrying on. I don't want you to underestimate that or what God has for you. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. I will catch you next week here at the Next Level Glam podcast with a new episode. Haven't decided what yet. We're going to let the Lord lead on it. If you have any questions, that's always helpful for me too. That'll take my podcast episode in a certain direction potentially. So always feel free to do that. And until next time, continue to rest and grow in His grace.